Hello, I'm Philip Stoughton. I am at Apex 2025. We're on the Creative Electron booth, and it is the end of day 2. And given that it's only 3 hours tomorrow, maybe the end of the show. Who knows? Yeah. Thanks for joining me, guys. Really curious to hear what customers that have been coming to the booth here have been looking for.
It's been interesting, right? Like we talked before, we're looking at this new wave of inspection requirements, right? We've had a convergence of the artificial intelligence requests and connectivity and 3D X-ray inspection. So we're reaching a point where the technology and affordability of these machines are reaching the point where you're about to break the chasm.
Yeah.
And luckily, we brought to the show a whole suite of new equipment that exactly for that. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah, and that fits in very much with what you're doing with JV with Miscoll, which is, you know, one of the few pieces of breaking news. We were talking before we came on and trying to figure out what's new at the show. And I don't know what's new at the show. That's a big ask.
That's kind of a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. What I think is really interesting is, in terms of timing, is I've spoken to a lot of EMS leadership, and Eric has the same. And a lot of them have sent more people this year than they normally send. Yeah. And some of those people are on a mission just to figure out what we're going to do with AI. Yeah. I refer to them as AI curious. They're trying to figure out where to use it, where can I get control of it, and how can I avoid maybe making some of the mistakes I made with Industry 4.0.
Exactly, because it got to the point where people understand that adoption is here. Yeah. You know, we've been talking about AI for how many years now? 5, 10 years, right? As the wave of the future. Yeah. And I think what people are trying to figure out is how not to get drowned by the wave once it hits them. Yeah. And then it's too late. Yeah. Right? So it's that the recognizance missions to figure out what to do now before they get left behind. Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff that can be done, from the connectivity of machinery and also all the and again, it's the beautiful thing about AI and this LLMs and machine learning models out there is that they're getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper.
And better and better at the same time.
Better and better. It's incredible, right? Yeah. So, and I think a lot of people who are, have struggled with technology, the speed of development now has gained exponential vectors. So it's very easy to be left behind. Yeah. Quite a few people now understand that.
There's definitely a fear of being left behind, isn't there, Rick? But there's also a fear of going down the wrong road, doing the wrong thing.
Oh, that's it. Finding the right solution within that. And you're right. I mean, it's getting cheaper and better, and that's what technology always does, right? Yeah. It starts here and then it goes down. But it is with AI. It's like, which platform to use? What should I use? Right? Yeah. It's not all ChatGPT.
Or is it now? Yeah. Is it now a good time? Should I wait 6 months and get GPT 6.0?
And some have more private neural networks too. They're not leveraging the larger ones. They're kind of developing internally, which is an interesting development too. Yeah. I don't know well enough to know which is better or worse, but there's probably pros and cons to each.
Yeah, there's definitely the risk of having your data dumped into this large
big training model
that's going to be used by your competitors as well.
Right.
So what we have is a sandbox within, and we pay dearly for that, so that we can have our own fenced-in.
That makes sense.
Learning. It's the trade-off is that you don't have the advantage of a very large model, but at the same time you have some of that confidence that your data is not going to be used by everybody else out there. Yeah. So you create your own sandbox and you play with that.
Yeah, I actually interviewed a guy today, and they do that. They do, well, I can name them, right? Delvitech down here is that. It's a new AOI they just launched in North America at their show, right? Yeah. But it's all proprietary and patented internal, and they're doing and that was his rationale. He says, I don't want to use something. I want to train ours on us.
Exactly. So, and it also gives the advantage of being able to do the analysis on the edge instead of going to the cloud, right? Yeah. Which for our customers is critical. Yeah. A lot of our customers unplug Ethernet cables, so being able to do on the edge is a requirement for us.
By the way, do you ever drive by a cloud? These big data centers, I love that euphemism. It's the cloud. It's this ephemeral thing out there. No, it's not.
In the 90s, one of my jobs as a young engineer at Fermilab was to be in charge of data center.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a massive bunch of computers, and nothing compared to what Google needs.
Cooling system,
like a nuclear power plant, to keep them going. But it was
and few people there.
Oh yeah, lights off.
Yeah, it's just
it's also just flickering lights.
Yeah, we've been talking about lights off for how many years now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jeez.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll get there one day.
Yeah, I think we will. I think what's interesting, you talk about having the data corralled. I think for a lot of these EMS companies, they want the project corralled. They want a small, tangible AI project they can cut their teeth on, where they know what the KPIs are, they know what the return of investment is, they know what success looks like, because otherwise it does become this cumbersome beast that Industry 4.0 was. Where do we start? I'm too overwhelmed, paralysis, I'm going to do nothing.
Exactly, and it's one of those things where you can't measure success.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know what a success is. Right? So it's one of those things, was Alice in Wonderland that said, if you don't know where you're going, you're never lost.
There you go.
So Industry 4.0 kind of feel like that, you know? You're never lost, but you don't really know where you're going, so you just keep on moving.
I think Alice in Wonderland would have figured out Industry 4.0 pretty well. It seems like a Lewis Carroll kind of story, doesn't it?
This is the red pill or the blue pill, right?
That's it. There's been a lack of clarity.
Industry 4.0, you take them both.
Well, that's it. That's the way it works. So what else have you seen that's new, Eric? What else have you been talking to people about? Talent seems a big issue.
Talent, listen, one of the big things is still the uncertainty in the market. We're in transition. Everybody's talking about when is this going to be over. Everybody seems to give it a few months to settle down, right? We're in that transition. We're in the hoopla state, right, with a lot of balls in the air, and people,
especially with tariffs.
Business craves, stability, and it's just not there right now. So there's a lot of concern. But there's also beyond the concern, people say, okay, but by second half of this year, we should have this stuff figured out. And
by second
things
half
should be
of the
more
year,
settled.
we'll have another disruption that we didn't expect, though. It's the nature of the business. When I talk to EMS companies, and I talk to suppliers about their relationship with EMS companies, building for agility is kind of the key. Where we are now, you think of a global EMS like Incap. I talked to Otto earlier, and I think the agility they have within their business, the fact that they are manufacturing in India, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, North America, I think that's what gives them the agility, and they're focused in their operational excellence on making sure they can move stuff when they need to. And I kind of think that uncertainty is part of the EMS game, isn't it?
Well, in a way, because you can use that as an advantage, a competitive advantage. So one of the things that we've gained with this relationship with Unicomp is that agility, right? Having manufacturing plants in different geographies allows you to shift things around, and so you become a global company that can meet the demands of the customers where they are, when they are, and how they need it, right? So that we can actually be, we can use tariff as an advantage, not an uncertainty becomes an advantage, not necessarily.
Yeah, if you're agile, and uncertainty is a key part of it. I think where some of the challenges are particularly in capital equipment. You take an example of Mexico, where CapEx is down, and right now it just feels like you've got to wait a few months before you invest. So there's a lot of pent-up demand, and hopefully that'll break when there's some more clarity, or people will just decide it's uncertain, but let's just do it.
But I'm also asking, are you seeing the demand return yet? Not yet, right? It's not. It's so
in the US, it's really interesting. I see really strong demand in that middle tier, like 50 million to 200 million. That's a pretty sweet spot to be in as a contract manufacturer right now, especially if you've got a proportion of your business in defense and you're in the right markets.
Absolutely.
Those companies are doing well. I've spoken to people that are looking at building new facilities, putting new lines on. A lot of people that are looking at how do I maybe double productivity or grow my productivity without growing my headcount very much. So look into automation solutions to do that. But I think here in the US, demand is strong. Europe's taking longer to come back. South of the border, they're suffering from this hiatus of should we make here? I was talking to someone down there recently. They were having day-to-day calls from their customers saying, can you ship tomorrow because we think there might be tariffs on by Friday.
Oh, wow.
And then the tariffs would come on early, and they're saying, don't ship. And then Monday, there would be an adjustment for USMCA approved items, and they'd say, ship now. We don't know what's going to happen next.
We got a window.
What a situation to be in.
But I think, go back to what Eric said, I think that's one situation that has to stabilize very soon because it's such a huge impact in American companies that Washington will have to figure that out. I think that's a big transient right now. I mean, Asia is a whole different conversation. Right? It should not be called in the same tariffs conversation.
No, it's a different conversation.
Asia is a whole different conversation.
Your near neighbors are very different.
Yeah, but USMCA, Canada and Mexico are such an integral part of our supply chain that you end up benefiting from the auto industry. European companies, and Japanese companies, Korean companies, they're not these subject. So and I think at the end of the day, that doesn't look good for the electorate, right? So
no, well, you're absolutely right. The motivation for that wasn't business, though, too, right? That had, ostensibly had nothing to do with business, had everything to do with national security.
Yeah, a little bit more.
So it really becomes what do you in your priority of things, what comes first? I think in a country it's security.
No doubt about it.
Right, then it comes. So I think at the end of the day, our current president is a businessman and will be looking to do deals. So
and stuff will get
and things are happening. Things are happening, and I think on both sides, and this will work.
I have one resource that I've been reading quite a lot on, a very reliable resource, and all they provide is data. And what they've been doing is taking the price of a Silverado, which apparently is a very popular pickup, and adjusting it every time the tariffs change, and it would go up by like $7,000 because apparently the supply chain crosses the Canadian and Mexican border numerous times. You know, really critical parts that are coming from Canada, really critical gearbox parts and heavy parts that only come in from Mexico.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it popped up $7,000 and then it went down, and it was kind of all over the place. It's fascinating to see, like, take a single product and just watch it move.
You know, remember the economists used to have their cheeseburger, their McDonald's index, in all the different countries, which was fun, right?
How long do you have to work to buy a Big Mac? That was it.
It was a fun way of making something much more understandable.
Happy with the show?
Very happy with the show.
Good.
Yeah. And again, trade shows are, and I've had my opinions about trade shows in the past, but it turns out it's a great place to be.
It turns out you got to be there.
You got to be there, and it's all about pre-show preparation and having a and it all goes back, right? Is if you don't have a measure of success, then you're never going to be successful. So over the past few years, we've been establishing really good KPIs, and then measure them, right?
Measure.
You are what you measure, right?
Well, and you can only improve what you measure. If you're not measuring it, how do you know whether you got it?
And clearly, people miss you because I've been in your booth. People have been coming by looking for you all day.
I've interviewed so many people today. It's incredible.
Oh
yeah, interviewed them. You can't notice them. Maybe Phil, we should sit here so they don't confuse us.
I've got a handful of times people want, Bill. It's like, sorry.
It's my handsome younger brother.
Well, there you go.
It's the same barber.
Guys, thanks so much, Dr. Eric and Dr. Bill. It's been a pleasure. It's been like really good therapy for me yet again. I really appreciate it. I will be back again for my regular consultation.
And you're Dr. Phil.
I am both not a doctor, and I am nothing like.
And as they say, I'm okay, you're okay if the check's okay.
Yeah, there you go. That's the way. Good. Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Always. Thank you.
Cheers.